That was Alec Baldwin's disrespectful stare following the lawyer's accusations in court.
And in the rehearsal, he wanted me to pull out the gun.
But once reality checked in for him and pieces of evidence were given, the actor broke down in tears. Will his reality ever be the same after the judge's remarks? Alec Baldwin breaks down in tears in court. It was a packed and very tense courthouse in New Mexico as friends and family gathered to witness the verdict on actor Alec Baldwin's criminal case. Just days after Baldwin's trial for involuntary manslaughter began, the nearly 3-year saga produced another shocking twist no one had anticipated.
The state's discovery violation has injected a needless, incurable delay into the instant jury trial. Dismissal with prejudice is warranted to ensure the integrity of the judicial system and the efficient administration of justice.
Judge Mary Marlowe Summer dismissed the case based on the misconduct of police and misconduct over withholding evidence from the defense in the 2021 fatal shooting on the set of the film Rust.
To his wife, and he has her on FaceTime so we can actually hear her, we can hear her responses. And then he's speaking to another person who sounds like some sort of a family assistant or a nanny or someone like that. And he is explaining that he wants that person.
All the prosecutors wanted to do was to prove Baldwin's negligence. The case had dragged on since October 2021 with many twists and the tension. Expectedly, the atmosphere in the courtroom was palpable as the judge read her verdict from a lengthy statement. The 30 Rock star wept as the judge detailed her reasons for the dismissal. The cameras also moved to Alec Baldwin's wife, Hilaria, who was seated behind him, covering her mouth as she let out all her frustration in tears. Other members of Baldwin's family, including his brother Stephen Baldwin, cried and smiled in celebration of the verdict. While still crying, Baldwin hugged his 2 attorneys and later gestured to the front of the court before turning to hug his crying wife. The husband and wife hugged for about 12 seconds, and they were later joined by family members, marking a very emotional ending to the criminal trial. Baldwin and his wife later walked out of the Santa Fe County Courthouse hand in hand through a sea of pressmen and climbed into a black vehicle without speaking to the media. However, the actor released a statement 24 hours later, thanking his supporters for their kindness throughout the emotionally draining trial. In a post shared on his Instagram page on Saturday, July 13th, Baldwin uploaded a photo of himself in the courtroom alongside the caption, "There are too many people who have supported me to thank just now. To all of you, you will never know how much I appreciate your kindness toward my family." The post quickly gained thousands of likes, with fans and celebrities dropping comments to show their support for Baldwin. Singer Ricky Martin wrote, "Stay strong. So happy for you and the family." Fellow actor Jeremy Renner also chimed in with words of encouragement. He commented, "Bless you, sir," and Sean Hayes declared his love for his friend by writing, "Love you, pal," alongside a heart emoji. But Alec Baldwin hasn't been the only one that has had something to say about the case. In the aftermath of the dramatic dismissal, 2 jurors on the case, Gabriela Picayo and Johanna Haag, gave their thoughts on Baldwin's Rust trial during an interview with the New York Times. The duo expressed their doubts about the prosecution's case against Baldwin, citing a lack of compelling evidence that showed any negligence on Baldwin's part in the fatal shooting during the filming of Rust. While emphasizing her point, Haag, who was known as Juror 7, recalled law enforcement footage played by the prosecution, which captured the aftermath of the shooting. Touching on Baldwin's demeanor after the shooting, Haag explained that the actor looked shocked and stunned and so sad. She went on to say, "It was clearly an accident, and the idea that there's anything purposeful or the idea that there was this grave carelessness that caused this didn't seem realistic to me." Similarly, Picayo, who was known as Juror 9, emphasized that she found it difficult to pin any blame on Baldwin for the unfortunate incident. Picayo even mounted a strong defense for Baldwin, stating that as an actor, Baldwin shouldn't be expected to know much about gun safety. She then shifted the blame to the experts on the set, noting that when she learned that Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed had already been convicted of involuntary manslaughter, she couldn't understand why Baldwin was still on trial. Picayo said, "I'm still here. I'm still open to hearing and obviously trying to stay unbiased. But I was starting to move towards the direction of thinking that this was very silly and he should not be on trial." Ultimately, the jurors did not need to decide the case after it was dismissed on Friday, July 12th. The 12 jurors, including Haag and Picayo, only found out the case had been dismissed after getting sent home and receiving text messages from the court that read "Trail cancelled," with the word "trial" strangely misspelled. While the likes of Haag and Picayo may be satisfied with this outcome, others have been quick to vent their frustrations, most notably the prosecution. In a statement released shortly after the verdict was delivered, District Attorney attorney Mary Carmack Altwies said, "Our goal from the beginning was to seek justice for Halyna Hutchins. We are disappointed that the case did not get to the jury. Despite the setback, prosecutors can still boast of one conviction for Hutchins' death. This feat was achieved on March 6th, when Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the film's armorer, was sentenced to 18 months in prison over the fatal movie set shooting. Gutierrez-Reed has already appealed the conviction, and her attorney Jason Bowles has stated that he would be filing a motion to dismiss his client's case, using Baldwin's ruling as a precedent. Meanwhile, Dave Halls, Rust's first assistant director and the person who handed the loaded Colt .45 revolver to Alec Baldwin, was sentenced to 6 months unsupervised probation in 2023 as part of a plea deal. Before making the deal, Halls was charged with negligent use of a deadly weapon in connection with the fatal on-set shooting of Hutchins. While the dismissal of the state's case against Baldwin with prejudice effectively brings an end to any criminal charges against him relating to the case, the actor still faces civil lawsuits from Hutchins' parents, sister, and crew members. Hutchins' widower and young son had previously agreed to settle their lawsuit roughly a year after the shooting, with the widower getting an executive producer role on the then unfinished film. However, that settlement hit the rocks before the trial, and the lawyer who filed it, Brian Panish, rolled out the drums of war in a fresh statement. Panish said, "We look forward to presenting all the evidence to a jury and holding Mr. Baldwin accountable for his actions in the senseless death of Halyna Hutchins." The Rust trial. On the afternoon of October 21st, 2021, Alec Baldwin was rehearsing a scene on the set of the film Rust when he mistakenly discharged what he thought was a prop firearm. The bullet from the revolver passed through the upper body of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and struck Joel Souza, the film's director. Moments after the shooting, Hutchins was airlifted to a hospital in Albuquerque, where she died despite efforts to save her. Souza, on the other hand, was taken by ambulance to a hospital in Santa Fe and was released the next day after receiving treatment. In the aftermath of the shooting, 5 additional live rounds were found on the set, including in the gun belt that was given to Baldwin. This starkly contrasted claims by witnesses who said they had heard the phrase "cold gun," which meant the weapon did not contain any live ammunition and was safe to handle. This unsurprisingly raised questions about safety on the set, and when a news report emerged the next day that a group of camera crew workers on the set had staged a walkout in protest against poor working conditions, things began to spiral out of control. Amidst all the chaos going on in the media, Alec Baldwin took to his official X account to express his deep shock and sadness at the incident. He wrote, "There are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Halyna Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation to address how this tragedy occurred." Baldwin later confirmed that he had reached out to Hutchins' husband, Matthew, with whom she had a young son. The actor said, "I'm offering my support to him and his family. My heart is broken for her husband, their son, and all who knew and loved Halyna." Baldwin also showed his commitment to helping law enforcement with their investigations by voluntarily going to the Santa Fe County office and speaking to investigators. Meanwhile, the police initially confirmed that no charges had been brought against Baldwin after what appeared to be a tragic accident, but this stance would change as the days went by and new information came to light. First off, the actor was hit by several civil lawsuits from Hutchins' family members, accusing him of playing a significant role in Hutchins' death. However, Baldwin has repeatedly refused to take responsibility for the tragedy, emphasizing that he was consistently told that there were no live rounds in the gun and that live ammunition should be banned on set. Baldwin had also denied claims that he pulled the trigger, insisting instead that the firearm had mistakenly gone off. This claim would later be disproved by forensic reports, according to prosecutors. From this point, many conspiracy theories surfaced on the internet, with some people even suggesting there was a political witch hunt on Baldwin by the Republican Party after involuntary manslaughter charges were announced against Baldwin and the film's armorer in January 2023. During a January 2023 episode of The View, one of the show's co-hosts, Joy Behar, brought up the angle of a political conspiracy when she referred to Baldwin's political leanings. Behar said, "Also, you know, the DA who is indicting him, or whatever the legal term is right now, she's a big Republican. I'm only saying this because Alec Baldwin is a target for Republicans. They can't stand him. I'm not saying anything more than that." Interestingly, Behar wasn't the only one running with a conspiracy theory. Back in 2021, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's attorney, Jason Bowles, opened the floodgates for conspiracy theories when he claimed the armorer was being framed by someone for the fatal shooting that led to Hutchins' death.
That is the central question as to this case, which is how did a live round get on set And who put that live round on the set?
Bowles said he was convinced that someone had deliberately put a live bullet in the gun Gutierrez Reed later handed to Baldwin. In his statement, Bowles also alleged that the scene had been tampered with before the police arrived. Bowles's comments generated a lot of frenzy online, with lovers of conspiracy theories pushing the argument online. However, Santa Fe District Attorney Mary Carmack Altwies was quick to shut down the rumors by maintaining there was no proof suggesting that the armorer had been framed. Gutierrez Reed was eventually sentenced to 18 months in prison after being found to be negligent in her duties as the armorer on the Rust set. Meanwhile, the involuntary manslaughter charge against Baldwin was downgraded in February 2023 after his lawyers pointed out that it was based on a law that was passed months after the shooting occurred. Baldwin's Rust case kept on giving many twists, and the drama continued when the special prosecutor handling the case was forced to step down. Baldwin's lawyers argued that her appointment violated state laws because she was also serving in another branch of government as a state lawmaker at the time.
I was sent a photograph that concerned me, and I felt obligated, and like I said to the court, I try to not make these issues. This is a high-pressure case. I've been in many. There have been more issues in this case than I have ever seen in all of those cases combined.
Subsequently, a new prosecution team made up of Carrie T. Morrissey and Jason J. Lewis took over the case, and their first action was to dismiss the existing case against Baldwin so they could weigh new evidence. After reviving the case, the prosecution presented it to a grand jury in New Mexico, which indicted Baldwin in January 2024. But just as the trial resumed in July 2024, Baldwin's lawyers accused the prosecution of failing to share that it had received a batch of ammunition that was believed to be related to Hutchins' killing. The ammunitions were brought to the sheriff's office as potential evidence in March by Troy Teske, a retired police officer and close friend of Gutierrez Reed's father, Thel Reed. Coincidentally, Teske appeared with the ammunition on the same day the guilty verdict for Gutierrez Reed's case was read. It was later discovered that Teske and the ammunition had been known to law enforcement authorities since a few weeks after the shooting, but they deemed it was not relevant to the case, a stance that was maintained by the prosecutors, who maintained that the ammo was unrelated and unimportant. This was even though the evidence was collected but crucially left out of the Rust case file. More importantly, it was not included in the materials presented to Baldwin's lawyers when they examined ballistics evidence in April. This inaction prompted Baldwin's legal team to file a motion to dismiss the case on the premise that the prosecution had buried evidence relating to the case. During the dismissal of the case, Judge Mary Marlowe Summer subsequently stressed that the late discovery of this evidence during trial has impeded the effective use of evidence in such a way that it has impacted the fundamental fairness of the proceedings. If this conduct does not rise to the level of bad faith, it certainly comes so near to bad faith to show signs of scorching. Although the judge's decision brought a close to Baldwin's manslaughter prosecution, this particular chapter in the actor's life remains far from over, as he still has several hurdles of civil lawsuits to navigate. Thankfully, Baldwin seems to have a pretty capable legal team fighting his battles. But what's more important is the fact that Baldwin is no stranger when it comes to getting arrested, legal battles, and civil lawsuits. Alec Baldwin's criminal history. Alec Baldwin pretty much has one of the most recognizable faces and names in Hollywood. With features like that, it makes it literally impossible for him to walk into a room and not get noticed. In the same way, he can hardly do anything wrong without getting picked out amongst a sea of people almost immediately. You would think someone like that would do everything to stay out of trouble, but not this guy. In fact, Baldwin seems to have a special knack for getting on the wrong side of the law, that he has a rap sheet that puts him in league with some of the most notorious Hollywood bad boys. Although we would probably have another civil lawsuit case to deal with if you told him that to his face. Alec Baldwin's road to Hollywood notoriety has been well documented by the media since the mid-90s, and they largely feature his contentious relationship with reporters and photographers. One of the first major incidents that introduced the actor's fiery side to the public happened in October 26, 1995, when Baldwin infamously tussled with a photographer outside his home in Woodland Hills, California. Baldwin had just returned from the hospital with his then-wife Kim Basinger and their newborn baby girl Ireland Baldwin when he decided to confront photographer Alan Zanger, who had been camped outside his home. Perhaps feeling that Zanger's presence ruined what was supposed to be a private family moment, Baldwin inexplicably grabbed a can of shaving cream and sprayed it over all the windows of Zanger's car. This led to a brief scuffle between the two, during which Zanger claimed Baldwin punched him and broke his nose. However, the actor denied assaulting Zanger and claimed he merely slapped the camera out of his hands. Baldwin later won an invasion of privacy lawsuit against Zanger and was also acquitted of misdemeanor battery charges. However, Zanger was awarded $4,500 in damages in a civil lawsuit against Baldwin. In a statement released through his publicist, Baldwin not only denied claims that he seriously injured Zanger, but he somewhat justified his actions on that day. He said, "Anyone with a shred of human decency would understand that there are times in your life when you want your privacy respected, whether you are a public figure or not. I do believe that bringing your wife and 3-day-old baby home from the hospital is one of those occasions." Baldwin claimed he repeatedly asked Zanger to stop filming him and his family, but he refused each request, which inevitably led to the infamous scuffle. Baldwin seemingly stayed out of trouble for many years, but in the early 2010s, the actor fully embraced the angry man status, with a series of incidents that began with getting kicked off an American Airlines flight for unruly behavior in December 2011. According to reports, Baldwin got booted off the flight for refusing to turn off his cell phone after the plane's doors were shut for takeoff. The incident caused the flight to be delayed for several minutes before security was invited to take him off the flight. The company later released a statement to address the incident and give reasons for kicking him off the flight. The statement reads, "The passenger was extremely rude to the crew, calling them inappropriate names and using offensive language, but Alec wasn't one to back down." Baldwin remained unapologetic for his actions and even described the flight attendants as retired Catholic school gym teachers from the 1950s in a since-deleted tweet. Baldwin later suggested he was targeted by the flight attendants, but offered an apology to fellow passengers for delaying the flight. The next year, Baldwin made the headlines for getting into several altercations with photographers, including one in which he allegedly punched a photographer in New York City. Later that year, Baldwin would tweet about the constant harassment he faced from reporters and how he wished a meteor could hit their car. The actor's most notable clashes with photographers, however, occurred in 2013. First off, on August 27th, Baldwin confronted a photographer named Paul Adao, who had been trailing him and his wife in Manhattan. Things escalated very fast, and Baldwin is said to have pinned the man against a car for a brief period in front of several witnesses. The police later arrived at the scene, but both men decided to walk away from the scene without pressing any charges. Months later, Alec Baldwin's fiery temper would land him in hot water as he used homophobic slurs during a confrontation with another photographer. The incident was caught on video by TMZ, and Baldwin can be heard calling the photographer fag. However, Baldwin would later go on the offensive on Twitter, claiming he said fathead and threatening to sue TMZ for suggesting he used a homophobic slur. Baldwin tweeted, "Acoustic analysis proves the word is fathead. Fathead, anti-gay slurs are wrong. They not only offend, but threaten hard-fought tolerance of LGBT rights." Despite his initial denial, Baldwin later conceded in a now-deleted tweet that he had used an offensive word, promising to retire it from his vocabulary. In May 2014, Baldwin got embroiled in another controversy after he was arrested for illegal bike riding in New York City. According to a New York Police Department spokesperson, Baldwin was stopped by officers down on Fifth Avenue and informed he was going the wrong way. The spokesperson claimed Baldwin became uncooperative and argued with police officers when asked to produce an identification. He was subsequently arrested and taken to the 13th precinct for identification. Unsurprisingly, Baldwin went on an explosive Twitter rant in which he denounced the NYPD and the press, even going as far as calling New York City a mismanaged carnival of stupidity that is desperate for revenue and anxious to criminalize behavior once thought benign. As always, Baldwin manages to get all the charges against him dropped and even gets a conditional pardon. Alec Baldwin's anger issues finally got him into serious trouble after he struck a man in the face over a parking space in November 2018. The man, later identified as Wojciech Cieszkowski, was taken to Lenox Hill Hospital for treatment, while Baldwin was charged with assault and harassment. Baldwin pleaded guilty to harassment in January 2019 and was ordered to pay a $120 fine and attend anger management classes. Months later, Cieszkowski sued the actor for assault, and Baldwin responded with a defamation lawsuit where he claimed Cieszkowski had lied about the punch. 3 years later, both parties reached an amicable resolution before the Manhattan Supreme Court, although the terms of their agreement were never made public. What next for Alec Baldwin? After getting off easy for several misdemeanor charges, Alec Baldwin came so close to doing jail time for a crime he didn't commit. But throughout his criminal trial for involuntary manslaughter, man's famous anger continued to loom over him, with so many conspiracy theorists convinced he knew there were live rounds in the gun and he had pulled the trigger deliberately. Although investigations proved this theory to be false, the damage to Alec Baldwin's personal life and career from the whole saga was profound. During the trial, Baldwin's lawyers mentioned how the actor had lost so many job opportunities since the shooting. The controversial Rust movie, which happens to be Baldwin's last job, has also not been released, despite completing filming in May 2023.
Hi, I'm Alec Baldwin, and I was nominated by the Baldwin Fund for the Crush the Can Challenge.
Amidst all the turmoil, Baldwin has somehow managed to maintain a public profile. Even though he hasn't had any relevant jobs, Baldwin's public profile as an A-list actor remains intact, and he has even participated in a Rust-themed documentary by Rory Kennedy. However, Baldwin's biggest project in more than 3 years sees him and his wife Hilaria become the next family set to star in their own reality TV series. The TLC series, which is scheduled to air sometime in 2025, will focus on Baldwin's life with his wife Hilaria and their 7 children, who are all under age 10. While still awaiting trial, Baldwin announced the new documentary in a June 4th Instagram post, accompanied by a teaser video captioned, "We've got an exciting announcement to share."
This is about our show.
We're inviting you into our home to experience the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the wild, and the crazy.
In the video, the couple can be seen in their home with their 7 children. The clip starts with the couple joking about Hilaria having another pregnancy, but she quickly sets the record straight by saying they were done having kids. The video then cuts to a chaotic scene showing their children screaming as the parents struggle to get them together for a group photo. With viewers already getting a taste of what to expect from the first few seconds, Baldwin goes on to add, "Home is the place we love to be most." The couple also teased The Baldwins as the working title for the show when they tried to get the whole family to scream the phrase in harmony, but it ended in futility. A statement from TLC provided more details of what to expect from the show. It read, "Alec and Hilaria Baldwin have been making headlines since they were married nearly 12 years ago. In this TLC follow-doc series, Alec and Hilaria invite viewers into the home they share with their 7 growing kids. For the first time, they're opening up their family lives and bringing everyone in to join in the non-stop love, laughter, and drama." Although the announcement video seemed catchy and dramatic, making the right blend for good reality TV, the decision to do the show amidst Baldwin's trial was heavily criticized on social media. Leading the criticisms was broadcaster Piers Morgan, who wrote on X, "My God, the repulsive shamelessness of doing this when you're facing a criminal trial for shooting a woman dead, and when you constantly attack the media for invading your privacy." Several other social media users savagely mocked the announcement, with some joking that Alec Baldwin agreed to the project to raise money for his legal fees. Some others sarcastically queries if the TLC cameras would follow Baldwin into the cell when he gets sent to prison. Now that it has become clear that Baldwin would not be going to prison, the movie star is hoping that critics can finally put that chapter behind them and support the new TV show when it finally hits their screens next year. Alec Baldwin has earned a reputation for being very private about his personal life and family, to the extent of physically fighting nosy paparazzi who try to sneak a picture of private moments. So for many of his fans, it would be interesting to see how comfortable Baldwin would be with prying TLC cameras recording intimate family moments. Alec Baldwin met his wife Hilaria in February 2011 at the New York City restaurant Pure Food and Wine. The two eventually began dating later that summer, but during an appearance on the Ellen DeGeneres show, Hilaria recalled how their relationship got off to a slow start. She said, "Do you guys know that he shook my hand for 6 weeks and didn't kiss me when we met?" Despite the slow start, the couple were engaged barely a year later, in April 2012. The venue for the special event was a lighthouse in East Hampton, New York, a place they revisited with their family in 2019. 2 months after getting engaged, Alec Baldwin and Hilaria tied the knot in a star-studded event at St. Patrick's Old Cathedral in New York City. The June 30th, 2012 event was attended by family and friends of the bride and groom, as well as celebrity guests such as Mariska Hargitay, Tina Fey, Lorne Michaels, Robert Kennedy Jr., Woody Allen, and Soon-Yi Previn. The couple have since welcomed 3 daughters, Carmen Gabriela, Maria Lucia Victoria, and Ilaria Catalina Irena, and 4 sons, Rafael Thomas, Leonardo Angel Charles, Romeo Alejandro David, and Eduardo Edu Pau Lucas. Alec Baldwin also has a daughter, Ireland Baldwin, from his previous marriage to actress Kim Basinger. The Baldwins have certainly had their fair share of ups and downs through the years, but with their most recent setback finally out of the way, way, the couple are now determined to share some of their most treasured moments in their new reality TV series. While Baldwin's pending civil lawsuits still loom, for now, he is doing what free men do, living life on his own terms. To stay connected with undiluted gossip surrounding your favorite Hollywood celebs, do click the card showing on the screen.